so I'll welcome everyone. It is 6 o'clock. Our new and improved board meeting start time, 6 p.m. So we're 6 o'clock, our new improved start time. So welcome everybody to the August 2026 Lake George Central School District Board of Education meeting. We are all present this evening for the meeting, and we're going to begin the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you're able to stand and join us, please do. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our first item under presentations and reports is the public hearing for the district-wide safety plan. I'll turn that over to John.
Thank you, Katie. Yeah, so at this time, we have at this time each year, the district is required, all school districts, to have a public hearing in regards to the district-wide safety plan. As I shared at the meeting in July, our district-wide safety plan has been posted on our website for the 30-day requirement, along with a Google form link for any comments or questions. We did not have any from the public. The changes to it were very minor. For example, updating Mr. Levitt, things like that, new staff, new people that are here. Last year, you'll recall, we had a pretty big update with DESHA's law, which has to do with AEDs and CPR requirements. But this year was more of just non-substantial updates to the document. That document is reviewed through our safety consultants, the Needham Group, along with our administrators and myself each year, and updated. So at this time, we can open this up for any public comment on the district-wide safety plan. And seeing none, we can close the public hearing.
Okay, and we'll see later in the
Yes.
agenda.
Yes, there'll be a recommendation for the board to approve it later in the agenda.
Thank you, John. The next item in this category is a report from the Committee on Special Education. It's the Committee on Special Education biannual report. And we have Mr. Chris Mondella, Ms. Jenna Smith, and Mr. John Luthringer will be giving us that report. So welcome.
Thank you.
So thank you again. We're here to share a little bit about the special education, our requirements for, I'm going to stand right over here. I'm right under that speaker. In regards to the New York State special education requirements per New York State education law, this is a requirement. All school districts are required to have a special education plan. It currently has been developed and lives on our website. It does fluctuate at times, so it's important that every 2 years it's updated and information is shared with the board. So tonight you're going to see a presentation really outlining these things here. So we're going to talk about our continuum of services. We're going to share a little bit about what does it really look like at Lake George here and the programs that we offer in regards to special education. We're going to share some information about our population, some data around that, look at some trends. Our Chris and Jenna will talk about those things, and then look at some goals that the special education department has developed for the next couple of years. So you might recall this is something that we set up as a cycle at this time of year in August. So we started this 2 years ago as we redeveloped our plan, and we're at that point again where we're developing again for the next 2 years. So this plan will live from 2026 through 2028. Our goal of presenting tonight, I will follow up with sharing that plan with the Board of Education, and then we'll be recommending adoption of that plan at the September board meeting. So feel free to ask any questions, and certainly over the next few weeks, if you have questions as well, when you look at the plan, please let us know. As I shared, there are a number of requirements outlined in education law that have to go into the plan. So one of them is really looking at the scope of the programs and services available to our students. Again, that speaks to the continuum, right? What do we offer from least restrictive to what's called most restrictive? So that's something that lives in the plan. We have to identify the number of students that we serve, their disability and location, methods for evaluating programs. So I'll speak to that a little bit later, but there are a series of things that that we do or look at, or forms that we get, or data that we get from the state, or our own local data of how we evaluate our programming. Board of Education policies and practices are part of that plan. You'll see that outlined in the plan as well. There's a number of policies that the board adopts and has as part of our policy documents. And then the budget, there's the estimated budget as part of the plan. And then again, the board adoption date. So these are really the requirements, just generally speaking, of the things that have to go into the plan. So I will turn it over to Chris to share a little bit more about our programming.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. So the plan for today is I'm going to go through the continuum of services, and then I'll hand the microphone over to Jenna, and she'll go through the data that we've collected over the last few years. John will do the budget at the end, and then we'll talk about the goals coming up for the next couple of years. So I want to go through the continuum. Related services are the least restrictive services that we offer at Lake George. So those are to assist students in accessing the general education curriculum. That would include speech, OT, PT, counseling services. So here at Lake George for speech, we have Robin Larson and Stephanie Polak. OTPT is Yvonne Boyerman and Kristen Starling Doty. And for counseling services, we have a variety of staff members that provide counseling in addition to the BHSN services that are provided in both buildings as well. They all do a fantastic job. Another related service that we added, I'm really happy and proud to report, this year we added music therapy, which is something that we had never had before. We had a student that was out of district that came back to us, which is always fantastic. But when she came back to us on her document, she had music therapy, not only individual services, but also group services as well. So she gets those individual services, but her class, which is the special class, Morgan Burns's classroom, get to benefit from having that group therapy as well, which is really fantastic to watch. If you ever get to see one of those sessions, it's really cool. So all related services are either individual or in small group. Usually those groups are three students or less. Next, we have consultant teacher services. So those are supplemental supports for students with disabilities. There are two types of consultant teacher services. There's direct and indirect. So for direct services, that special education teacher is directly in the classroom, providing hands-on support to students in the general ed classroom. So that special education teacher knows that document inside and out, and they're able to provide the supports and accommodations that she helped write to the student right there directly in the classroom, side by side with the general education teacher. For indirect, that special ed teacher is meeting on a regular basis with the general education teacher, and they're collaborating and trying to figure out, how should I adjust this lesson? What's the best way to present this to that special education student to make sure that they're going to be able to access their education? So they'll meet on a regular basis, kind of fine tuning exactly what works and what doesn't work for those students. So that's indirect CT. Next is resource room, and one of the backbones of our continuum, that specialized supplemental instruction and reteaching of core curriculum. That reteaching part, that's huge. That's the biggest part of resource room. That's really what it's designed for. So I'm a 9th grade student that just left Mrs. Talon's global studies classroom, and I'm struggling because she was teaching about CRQs and writing essays for some ancient war that I'm struggling to remember about. And then I head to my resource room, and I have Miss Breslin, who's going to help me. She's going to pick up right where Mrs. Talon left off. She's going to teach me how to write those essays. What's the sequence? What's the graphic organizer that I'm going to use? So that student's getting that support directly after having those classes, and that reteaching is really huge. It's a pull-out service generally provided by case managers, although that is not always the case with some of the changes that we've had with scheduling over the last couple of years and with staffing. It's not always the case manager that's providing the resource room, but we make sure that they have access to the curriculums that's being provided. Alignment with students' IEP goals and progress monitoring. That progress monitoring is another huge part of resource room. So every IEP has a present levels of performance section in the top, and that's where the teacher is going to identify gaps. What's the student's need? But if there's a gap up in the PLEPS, we call it present levels of performance, then it needs to be addressed in the goals. How are we going to help that student close that gap? So those goals are in the document directly, and they're addressed in the resource room. So that teacher is going to be providing skill work on a regular basis with that student, and then collecting the data to make sure that that student is making progress towards those goals that are on that document. So that when we get to annual review season, April or May, I can say the students started here and now they're here. So when I'm looking for goals for next year, I know where to start. I know that maybe we don't need to focus on this skill. We can address something else. Or if maybe they didn't reach it, maybe we need to double back and look at that one again. So that progress monitoring is really important as well. Resource room is 5 students or less as well. ICT, or integrated co-teaching. So that's both general and special education students in one classroom. The special education teacher and general education teacher share responsibility for all the students. Ideally, the students in that classroom don't know the difference. I don't know which one's the general ed teacher. I don't know which one's the special ed teacher. I know I have 2 teachers. They're great. They help me when I need help, and I can't tell the difference between which one is which. That's the ideal situation for ICT. Both teachers are helping all students. Curriculum can be modified as needed. There should be no more than 12 students with disabilities in a particular class, and there can't be more than 50% students with disabilities in that class as well. Special class. So we have 2 special classes at Lake George. Down at the elementary school, we have Morgan Burns' classroom. She teaches the one down there. And then we have up here at the high school, the newly designed Pathways to Independence classroom, the 812 that Kate Kelly teaches. 2 amazing programs and 2 amazing staff members that I can't say enough about. They do an incredible job with our students. So that's specially designed instruction in a self-contained setting. Delivers continuous academic, behavioral, or developmental support to small groups structured around similar student needs rather than traditional age or grade levels, and opportunities to spend time with peers and cohort outside the special class classroom. So if you walk around our buildings, you're going to see our special class students are all over the building. There are plenty of opportunities for them to get out of that classroom. They're going to be in specials. You're going to see them in the art room, in the gym, in the music room. They're in the cafeteria. They're going to recess. If there's an assembly in the auditorium, they are there. Part of any school community event they are a part of. So just because it says self-contained doesn't mean that they're in that classroom all day long. To be around the building, if you walk around, you'll see that a lot of our general education students know them and know them well and greet them, and it's really nice to see. So the academic portion will happen generally in the special class in the classroom, but that's not obsolete either. That's not always the case either. If a student is really successful in one particular subject, we might push them out to a general education classroom if they can show that they can be successful in that room. So maybe they need some specific needs on reading, but in the math they can kind of handle being out in the general education classroom. So a lot of great stuff happening with the special classes. Out of district programs. So the goal for special education is always least restrictive environment. We want to make sure that we can put a student with their peers and pull away the barriers as best as possible, and hopefully they can be successful. It's not always the case, and when that happens, we have to consider out of district programs at times. So those are considered when the student's academic, behavioral, or physical needs exceed what can be supported in the district. Those placements can be other public schools, BOCES programs, or private day programs. The student does remain under the Lake George Committee on Special Education. So when this happens, Jenna and I are the ones running those meetings, but it's with ongoing objective of returning to less restrictive in-district programs when appropriate. So at those meetings, we're checking in. How's our student doing in your program? What kind of progress have they made? Is it time to look at bringing them back to our district? Have they shown on a consistent basis that they're able to perform at a level that they could be successful here? Because that's always the goal. We want to bring them back. We want to get them back into our district, into our buildings. And I'm happy to say that since I've been the chair, we've had a couple of students that have come back, and that's always fantastic. That's really nice. We know that guy. Home hospital instruction. Designed for students with disabilities who are unable to attend school due to medical needs, temporary educational bridge, a service designed to ensure students do not fall behind while recovering from severe illness, surgery, mental health crises, only recommended if it is considered to be the least restrictive environment. This is not something that happens often, but in the case that it does, we have the capacity and the ability to provide these supports outside of our buildings and go into the home and provide the education if necessary. Again, it does not happen very often, thankfully. So our most restrictive option are the residential programs, most restrictive on the CSE continuum. Student is removed from their home and community and placed in a residential program designed to meet their specific needs. The student requires continuous 24-hour therapeutic, medical, or behavioral intervention. Some of the schools that we've had some success with, Mountain Lake Academy, we've had several students graduate from there. The Charlton School, just 2 years ago, we had a girl that graduated from Charlton. LaSalle and Vanderheiden. The picture there is Charlton. If you ever get a chance to view that campus, Jenna and I both got to visit. It's an incredible, incredible facility. The horse therapy, the barn that they have there, it's absolutely beautiful. It's down in Saratoga County, and they do a really, really nice job. Girls only. And that's it for me. Right over to Jenna.
Absolutely. So this slide here shows our numbers for us here at the Committee on Special Education and Preschool Special Education at Lake George. It shows our numbers for the last 6 years, so 2020 to 2021 school year to the projected 26 to 27 school year. So as you can see through our numbers, generally there has been somewhat of a downward trend, but still relatively staying at that 13 to 12 to 13% total percentage of classified students. Looking at our total enrollment, we know it's a common theme that our enrollment is declining over the last few years, but we still have a pretty stable total amount of students being served at that 100 overall students. Looking at the data, as you can see, elementary from 6 years ago has declined pretty substantially from 52 down to 32 in the most recent school year, and junior and senior high school has remained pretty stable. So just something interesting to note. And just kind of to look at those projections. We do see that CPSE did decline a little bit last year. We didn't have as many initials, and there is some carryover from this previous school year to next year that we've been working hard on over the summer. Here's another breakdown of that eligibility for our students. Overall, we can see that it's pretty consistent. We have that 10 CPSE, those 10 CPSE students for our previous school year, 16 elementary and 11 at secondary who are identified this year as needing those services. There's a couple, like I mentioned, still in the pipeline, as you can see, that are still in that evaluation process. But overall, 10 students were determined that they were not eligible for services. So of that 16 at the elementary, 11 at the secondary level, that's a really good and promising number to have, you know, a relatively high classification rate. You want that because that shows that our MTSS and our work in, you know, the work we put in before the referral comes in or before that referral goes through is working. All those interventions, that support we're putting in place is working, and those referrals that we're getting are legitimate. So that's really nice to see. I know we've been doing a lot of work with MTSS and interventions, academic intervention support. So it was nice to kind of see that breakdown that, you know, the referrals that we're getting are legitimate, and, you know, and a lot of the times they end up as students who are classified. Another important thing to note too is our number of students who were declassified. Overall, we have 10 students, so that's pretty consistent across the board. You know, 5 elementary and secondary and 5 CPSE, as well as students who've exited the district. So we have about 10 students who moved into the district this year, and we have about 11 students who have exited with special education plans. So it's pretty stable. We gained 10, but we lost 11. So pretty stable with our numbers there. This is a breakdown of our students who are in out-of-district placements. This is, as you can see, our last school year was a pretty high number at 16 based on previous school years. Another interesting to note too is out of those numbers, the collaboration with other public schools has increased. I think that is something that is really interesting and something we'll see probably more common in the next few years, especially until we're waiting on the new BOCES Center to be developed and ready to go. But what that means is us and Lake George collaborating with other school districts in the area within our BOCES area. Maybe we're collaborating with Bolton, or maybe it's Fort Anne, Fort Edward, other schools who maybe have different programs that we have, or we have a program that they have a student who might be a good fit for. And we've seen that through our life skills program here at the high school. We have 3 students who we've collaborated with other school districts and contracted with. So it's been a really nice working relationship with other schools. And we've went to a number of schools this year to see some possible new students for our program. So I think that will be something that might be trending in that direction over the next couple of years. And we do still have a pretty good number with BOCES, a few students with Prospect, and we have a pretty low number of students in residential, which is good to see as well. But overall, I think, and in my experience in the couple of years I've been here, that our relationships with those out-of-district placements really are good and great, and they've been wonderful for our students.
So one of the requirements of the plan is to share about the budget. This is something that the board is part of our normal school budget. And you can see it's a pretty significant part of our budget at just about $4.5 million. Some of these things are easy to budget for each year. Salaries, teaching salaries, non-instructional salaries. These are things that we can really plan for. And sometimes it can be a challenge. As you all know, with special education, it really is dependent on students who might move in. Student needs change throughout the year. And it's heavily based on programming too, as well. If students are, if the needs surpass what we can provide at the school, and we need to look for an out-of-district placement. So this is a pretty standard budget. Again, this does fluctuate at times based on student need, but this is some of the breakdowns that you can see over the entire special education department. So heavily salaries and benefit based. And really dependent on student needs in regards to tuition as well. So these are the requirements based on the state law that school districts should be looking at in regards to evaluating programs. And it really kind of goes from more of even a micro to macro level. So some of the ways that we look to evaluate the program really starts at the CSE meetings, the Committee on Special Education, reviewing those IEPs, looking at individual goals and objectives. That really starts at the teacher level. And then some of it you can see, and I'm not going to read all of it, but some of it actually comes from the state education department. The last couple of years, the state is now giving a designation to all school districts in regards to the data around our students with special needs and the forms that we need to fill out and all sorts of different things. So some of that actually comes to us from the state evaluating our program. Thankfully, we don't have any corrective action plans or anything like that. We're at the highest level from the state's purview. And the other point that I want to point out here, another way to evaluate our programs has to do with, parent, student feedback, information. One of the things that we're required to do this past couple of years, as I've shared, is we have to get feedback from specifically our special education parents about the IEP process, the CSE meetings, how is it going for their child? It's called SPP8. And we have to report all of that to the state. So we get feedback from our parents as well. That helps us when we're looking at evaluating our program. And then some of it is also just data of our students, right? So these are things that we have to submit and report. There's a lot of reports that we submit to the state throughout the year. And that's just one of the ways that we look at evaluating our entire program. So this is part of our plan that you'll see as well.
So as a department, we set some goals. And really, if we remember the goals from 2 years ago, we really wanted to continue with them and strengthen them and really highlight some of the work that we have started, are continuing to do, and want to push forward as well. So as I mentioned, you probably heard before that MTSS work. That is something that is really relevant currently within our district, as you might know. Chris and I both have had the luxury of going to the RTI at Works conference, learning more about how that can look at our school at Lake George, and how we can really use that information and that data and those supports to further help out our special education students, but also help inform those evaluations when we get to that point, in terms of, intervention, academic support, anything we can be doing at those first 2-tier levels before it gets to more of those higher intensive needs later on. So one of our goals, as we mentioned, was continue to strengthen and sustain our district-wide MTSS, so our multi-tiered system of supports that provides timely, data-informed interventions and ensures students receive appropriate supports prior to consideration for special ed services. Like I mentioned, we had a pretty good, rate of students who were classified that came from those referrals. So I think just strengthening that and really making sure we're consistent with our processes, as a district.
Thank you, Jenna. So 2 years ago, goal number 2 was to have 100% graduation rate for students with disabilities. So I'm pleased to report that in the last 2 years, we had 15 students that were eligible in that category, students with disabilities that were eligible to graduate. We had 14 that graduated, so that's a 93% rate. Goal number 3 is to ensure consistent, high-quality IEP development by implementing district-wide expectations and ongoing professional learning focused on writing measurable student-centered goals. So we want our goals to look the same from kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade. We want our parents to recognize that goal. The skill's different from 4th grade to 10th grade, but the way it's written is very similar. And I understand the language you're using. So I feel like I'm a partner in this CSE annual review meeting, and I feel like I can make a contribution to this conversation. And that's what we're looking for. We want to make sure K through 12, they're looking very similar. And we've been working really hard in using goals that are a part of a box and sharing with sharing with the entire department. So making sure that everybody has access to those similar goals and drop-down menus that look the same. Another asset, since Jenna has joined us and she's working in both buildings on a regular basis, and she's collaborating with all of our special education teachers and able to support them in writing those goals. So, that's been a great asset having Jenna as well. And we're going to continue to make sure that those goals become more standardized as we move forward. Yep. And then, so this is a quote that I've always loved. I think it encapsulates special education in one sentence. If a child can't learn the way we teach, maybe we should teach the way they learn. Thank you, John, for the opportunity. Thank you, Jenna, and thank you, the board, for your time. Any questions?
Thank you. Thanks for that excellent presentation. I was really happy to hear that there's some music therapy option in the district, and I'm just curious, is that available for one child right now, or can referrals be made for other students?
So we have the service in the elementary school once a week. If we had another student that was referred by the committee for that support, that's something that we could expand. It's a group out of the Saratoga area, and they travel to several different schools with several providers. So if that was ever anything that was recommended by the committee, it could absolutely be added to other students' documents.
It's wonderful. And then I just had a couple other questions. Just out of curiosity, is resource room, is that a scheduled class time?
Yeah, so that's actually directly written on the IEP. So if we look at last year's high school schedule, it was a 4-day schedule. Generally, what you'd see is 4 and a 4. So that student's going to have resource room every single day, once a day, or maybe it's 2 and a 4 every other day. But that is scheduled and mandated by the document. Good question.
Can students go in there if it's not on their IEP? No. Okay, I was
No.
just curious. And do you ever have a situation where you identify a local program that's the right, looks like a good fit for a student, but they don't have room for them? And how do you respond to that? What's your process around that?
Yeah, so that's a struggle that I think a lot of regional schools are seeing. Just specifically with BOCES, they are understaffed at times. They have classrooms that they're closing and opening, and the TSP programs, for example, those are the therapeutic support programs for students with behavioral needs. Generally, they're a 611 or a 612. And those classrooms fill up really fast. So if you have a student that's really has some behavioral issues that needs a TSP, you really got to get that application in as early as possible and see if you can try to find a spot, get them on a waiting list, start looking at other schools. There are a lot of needs in our region and sometimes not enough seats.
I'd like to add too, just on the preschool side of things, that's also very common from what we've seen. There's not a lot of local programs. There's just a few. So typically, as Chris said, we're doing whatever we can on our back end to, provide services wherever ever possible. So maybe if a student's recommended for a special class program, maybe we can provide push in special ed services, or special ed teacher going to the student's house and doing some work with them in the meantime, related services, anything to kind of provide support while they're waiting on a wait list, unfortunately.
Thank you very much. And I had jotted down the music therapy. I was excited to hear about that. Thank you. Thank you very much for the report and for all your great work and the whole team. So thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, guys.
The next item on our agenda is the elementary update. And we will welcome Bill Levitt for his first report out at a board meeting. I know you were here last month, but this is your first, so welcome.
Thank
Glad
you.
to have you.
So I'm pretty honored to be able to be standing before you to give my first report. Before I do that, I want to publicly thank all of the board members, Mr. Luthringer, the other administrators, teachers, faculty, staff, parents, all the students that supported me and ultimately gave me this opportunity to be here. So it's been an exciting, I think 6 weeks now. So I noticed Fran's agenda's a little bit not as long as mine, so I'll try to go through quick. So summer phonics work, my first opportunity to watch teachers in action was a phonics work program or a reflection. And it was in July. I attended it was a planning session and I was witnessing the amazing cross grade level collaboration among the teachers. They were sharing best practices. They were adjusting timelines in an effort to ensure that key concepts were receiving adequate coverage. And they were aligned to the curriculum to ensure every student was fully prepared for the next grade level. Science prep teachers have been in and out of the building all summer for professional development related to science curriculum as they're planning and preparing their classrooms. The library is back and completely put back together. It looks amazing. If you have time, please stop by and take a look at it. It's bright, it's students focused, and it features new student height desks that are mobile. So we can move them around, have events in there, and more importantly, the kids can reach the books without staring at them out of reach. There's a lot of creative spaces that are spread throughout too. Mrs. Crossman really had some awesome thoughts in. Summer programming, back in July, Mrs. Crossman and Mrs. Usher hosted the Scoops Sports and Stories program. I can't say that fast. I was able to catch up with them after they were leaving Caldwell Library right before they headed over to the beach. The kids were incredibly excited to share the projects that they had in there. And then we took a walk down to the beach and watching the kids interact with their peers across grade levels, and particularly with a few students who generally aren't as social. It was really cool to see those kids just interacting with each other. This month, they are hosting, again in the library, they're hosting some book exchanges, some lending library hours, and book clubs, and they're building these different Lego projects to decorate the top of the bookshelves. So the kids have been getting pretty creative with that. Our Jumpstart program's in its second week. We have 41 students in regular attendance right now, and a few more phone calls we're making to try to get some more kids to come in. They're engaged in ELA and math to support over the summer to hit the ground running this fall. I told you when I was interviewing that I like to play music in the morning, gets kids coming in. Not a lot of takers on the dance party, but we'll get there. STEM camp is kicking off next week. Mr. Bizon and Mr. Lewis have both been in building, preparing another awesome experience for our kids for next week. Facilities and building prep. So Carl Shannon and their custodial crew have been doing an amazing job this year. The place looks great. Our courtyard, been working with Mr. Luthringer. He's been amazing and supportive on that. We're getting that cleaned up. It's going to be back to a usable educational space for the kids. That's hopefully happening this week. And Carl has been working nonstop, brightening up the building with new paint and everything like that. We're kind of doing a little facelift and adjustment in the main office, and was at a conference last week. I came back and he surprised me. He's already got the office painted. It looks amazing. Got some upcoming space adjustments in the building to improve some functionality in the main office, as well as targeting a couple of special needs or special areas of need that we need. So our school counselor, Zoe, doesn't really have a confidential space right now for meetings with students and families. So we have a plan for that. And we're going to implement that as soon as we, the schedule allows that to create a new space for her. In doing so, we're also going to establish a dedicated home for IT and going to shift the workspace so that Megan, John, and Natalie, when they're in the building, they have a dedicated workspace too, so that they can kind of a multi-use office. Safety, as you know, remains my top priority. Following recent review meetings, we are moving to a single point of entry for the building. So all students and visitors are going to come through the main entrance of the building. And the community notification for that is going to be coming up in the next few weeks so that people are very clear and it's not a big fumbling experience for people when they're starting the school year. So things are laid out and they know what to expect and give them time to ask questions if they need to. Also, our new camera system is up and running. Warren did an amazing job overseeing the installation process and making sure that things are up and running. We really have excellent coverage both in and out of the building, should we ever need it. New thing that we're working on right now is a safe handoff / gentle beginning for the kids. So our focus is always on protecting kids, but that's not just physical, it's emotional as well. So when you think about what we'll be rolling out is a safe space for students to transition and say goodbye to their parents or guardians in the morning. Because when they get to the classroom, your goal there is that's their safe space, right? You don't need to have that possibly traumatic experience of that separation happening in that safe space. So we're going to be using the little theater as a calming and semi-private space for students and parents to say goodbye. Ellie, the therapy dog, I think is going to be joining us for that to help out with that. So the couple of wins that we're getting out of that, classrooms are now becoming a safe space for students as opposed to the location of that trauma. Emotional separations are not going to be on public display anymore. The separation happens consistently towards the front of the building. Previously it would happen in the classroom, and then the following week they'd have to get used to saying goodbye in a new space. Now it's all going to happen in the front of the building so the kids get accustomed to one space of saying goodbye. And then also obviously improve visitor tracking throughout the building. Personnel items, I'm very excited to welcome Christina Natoli as our new kindergarten teaching assistant. Her experience, community connection, and positive energy I know is going to be an amazing asset for our young learners. We're currently searching for a dynamic new greeter as well as a new assistant for me. Since Cecily is moving up to be SRO at the high school, I think we're working towards that. So fully support. I'm sorry to lose her, but I'm happy for her at the same time. Professional development. Last week, I had the opportunity to attend the Solution 3 MTSS meeting in Syracuse, along 5 colleagues here from Lake George. We had a lot of great takeaways from it. It was definitely a worthy investment in our time and taxpayer money. So I appreciate that opportunity. We're going to be implementing some of that stuff, both short-term and some long-term goals and projects on that. New principal, me, the hot seat icebreaker challenge was thrown out to everybody in the elementary building. We've had a few brave souls that have stepped out and had a little fun with that, but I'm looking forward to continuing to do that, especially as we get to the start of the new school year to really sit down. My goal is to meet one-on-one with everybody in the building, regardless of your role. I want to get to know you and see how I can support people. Also on 8/18, I apologize. I scheduled the Parent Square meeting to go out at 5 o'clock rather than I should have done that not during the meeting, but 3:30 to 4:30, we're going to do popsicles with the principal out on the playground. It's a kind of a sweet spot for parents who want to have a conversation without their kids, but they're picking up from STEM, and then the kids can come out and join us. So that's kind of why we landed on that time frame. So that's happening next week. And then today, cabinet and curriculum leaders came together. We came together for a little joint summer session. The major focus of this was talking about restructuring, how that looks and how our shared decision team looks and how our cabinet meetings are going to be laid out for this year. Increasing productivity, but also respecting people's time, looking to maybe some decrease in meetings, walk some of that back and trust professionals to get those jobs done and still check in and keep updates going. The cabinet met after that joint session and adopted a couple of big lists for this school year. First one is we're going to be working on a PBIS style behavioral plan, and I want to publicly thank them for agreeing to that because that was a personal request of mine. You look at our MRA, MTSS, and climate surveys; those have been big asks to address behavioral supports in the building. So there's more to come on that, but our rollout for that is going to be January, so it's a pretty tight timeline. But we have high aspirations on that. I'm very confident we'll get that done. Also a master schedule review. We're not going to be outdone by the junior and senior high school. So we're going to be looking at exploring best practices for the elementary master schedule, and also out of concern for our shared staff that are kind of hitting a crunch right now between the new time schedules. But that's it for now.
Thank you. Can you repeat what the first goal was, take the job that cabinet is focused on?
Yeah, so PBIS. So we're working, it's basically going to be a behavioral program that is going to focus on set expectations for students, and it's going to be ingrained in the curriculum. And then the follow through on that is the discipline aspect or behavioral aspects. So the expectations are taught and laid out to the students, and then you have interventions built in and follow through on my end, both with me and the parents at a student level. So we're using simple terms. I used the example earlier in the cabinet meeting, working at secondary level. I don't know how many 11th graders I had to explain what the word insubordination means. I'm not going to have that conversation with a first grader. It's just not, it's not appropriate. It's not what they need to hear. So talking about kindness, leadership, accountability, those sorts of things, and building off of that, and then definitions that are appropriate per grade level. So the 6th grade definition of accountability is going to look a lot different than a kindergartner's. So building all of that in.
What's the abbreviation stand for? Something
It's
intervention.
positive
service?
behavior intervention and
Positive
supports.
behavior.
Yeah. So PBIS is
Sorry, full of acronyms.
That's okay.
no, there's a lot of acronyms as we know, and
It's okay. I just wanted to know what it
Yep.
stood
Sorry.
for.
Yep. Yep. Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next up is the junior senior high school update with Mr. Frank Koza, our principal there.
Thanks, Bill. I appreciate hearing about the therapy dog at the elementary school. That's awesome. Really, kind of that continuum, pre-K through 12, we have therapy dogs in the school. So that's a great initiative. A lot of things going on at the high school. The summer projects are progressing. I know it sounds small, but bathroom sinks have been installed in the school. They were 1990 vintage. They broke all the time. They constantly ran. And replacing sinks, you would think is simple, but it's not. It's taken a lot of plumbing. So we're excited about that. HVAC was another project this summer. This room especially, it's stalled because of some contractor delays, but we will be progressing with our HVAC at the high school as well. Home and Careers is getting a brand new floor, actually this style. So the Home and Careers room is having a major upgrade. We have a bunch of classroom moves occurring this summer. And also today we did a comprehensive walkthrough for our camera upgrades. So the elementary school is prioritized to be done first. The high school is going to be done, I believe, Megan, the tentative is the fall for the install for the cameras at the high school, sometime around October, which will completely upgrade the camera system. The biggest thing at the high school is the architectural atmosphere of the front of the school and the interior of the school, and not having those cameras impact that. Plus, it's an old building. It's 100 years old. Walls are thicker, harder to get through. So it's a much larger project when we're replacing as many cameras as we are. So we did that walkthrough today. So there's a lot going on. However, the campus looks beautiful. This morning, I watched a tourist. They came across the street and they were taking pictures in our flowers. It's like it's a destination to take pictures, but the campus is irresistible, how beautiful it is. So with that HVAC upgrades, among other things, we're in a good spot to open in September. Not to be outdone, our summer school, our summer remediation wrapped up this week. Actually, yesterday, our staff member, Carol, finished. I will proudly tell you that all of the students that attended, 8 of them, all passed and received their credits for their summer remediation. So we're really excited about that. That's a 100% success rate. And I think Carol has had multiple years of 100% success rate. Additionally, Youth Commission wrapped up last week. tremendous programming that occurs out of this building, along with programming that occurs in the auditorium throughout the summer, from the bubble guy to the magician to everything else that Youth Commission does. So those youth counselors have 4 weeks of summer to rest and recuperate because many of them work in the schools. But they do a tremendous service for our Lake George community and wider community for the youth of our school system. So there's a lot going on out of our facility with Youth Commission. Summer PD, you know, I want to give Megan accolades for all of the summer PD that occurs over the summer in our building and the elementary school. One of the major focuses of professional development this summer is adjusting curriculum and lessons to the new master schedule. So we are moving from a 40-minute class period to a 53-minute class period. And Megan, what did you just say? Can you say it to the board so they can appreciate it?
Part of the work that teachers are doing involves a reflection, and one of the questions we ask that is, you know, what did they work on, but also what do they need? And in looking at those reflections as they're coming in, I said to Fran, we need to remind teachers they're doing some amazing work, and they're really excited to build in some instructional practices that they didn't have time for. So this last one was that they've built in exit tickets, which is a wonderful practice to have, formative assessment. But my concern is we have longer blocks of time, but we're not meeting every day. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we're gaining time with students during the school year. So we need to remind them that they also need to be using this time to rearrange their instruction to ensure they don't run out of time at the end of the year.
So when you think about over 180 days, when we presented this new schedule to the board and to the staff, there's actually a slight decrease in instructional time. So that's a big concern, is if you're adding more, where you're going to give down the road. So this Friday, today's Tuesday, Friday, teachers' schedules are shared with the instructional staff. Remember that, Rose? So that's when the fun will begin, because the instructional staff will start to poke holes as to what's missing or what should be changed, and what improvements and enhancements should be made. Then the all-important public sharing with students and parents will occur. Our tentative goal is to share student schedules a week from this Friday. However, we've been a little general in that time frame because we want to see what responses we get from the instructional staff this Friday. However, if everything goes well, then next Friday, a week from this Friday, students will have their schedules, and then we're off to the races. What we keep reminding everyone every time I speak about the new schedules, it's 10 minutes earlier. It's 10 minutes earlier. It's 10 minutes earlier. We start at 7:50, not 8 o'clock. Reminder, our shared decision-making will be looking at our comprehensive attendance plan this year. So at some point, there'll be recommendations from our shared decision-making body, potentially going to policy in regards to our comprehensive attendance policy. Centennial is this year as well. We have a lot to do with that committee. We'll be reconvening in the fall with that committee. And just so you can digest on these numbers, right now, grades 7 through 12, we have 286 students. That is a decrease. 7th grade, we have 43 kids. 8th grade, 45 kids. 9th grade, 45 kids. 10th grade, 55. 11th grade, 42. And this year we have projected to have 56 seniors. So we still have two fairly large classes, but then we're going to be settling in the 40s at the junior senior high school. That's my update. Any questions?
Thank you, Fran. And I always get excited about all the community engagement. So thank you for, opening up the school and making sure that not only our kids, but the community, larger community has opportunities to be part of the great things that are going on here. I got a report that the Bubble Show from relatives who were in town visiting on a very rainy day. They were excited when they saw the Bubble Show and said it was fabulous. So
Yeah, the auditorium was packed. We also hosted the community band all day, 17-hour crazy extravaganza. It was actually 12 hours. So Shepherd Park, it was a washout that day, and
Yeah.
they had to pivot that morning to here. And I didn't think a lot of people would come. I was mistaken. That auditorium was filled. Rose, did you go? The auditorium, our auditorium for Community Band Festival, which was area community bands from as far out of state from Pennsylvania. The auditorium was filled the entire day, all 12 hours. It was incredible.
thank you.
So yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
great. Thanks, Fran. Next agenda item is the superintendent report with Mr. John Luthringer, our superintendent.
Thank you, Katie. Just a few items here. As I was sharing when you all walked in, there's 18 weekdays left, 18 days left before we welcome our teachers and staff back, 20 days for students, as Bonnie's there's a lot to get done, but we have gotten a lot done, as both our principals shared. There's a tremendous amount of work going on in our buildings to be prepared, as painting, repairs, updates, improvements throughout the district will be noticed by our staff and our students. As part of those transitions as well, we are transitioning our building and grounds facility. You've seen there's been a security fence installed. There will be new signage going up on that building on Thursday, along with signage at our new transportation facility as well, a new sign outside on Route 9L on Thursday as well. So a lot of work is happening behind the scenes, but it's all in benefit of our staff and students, and they'll certainly see those improvements as they come in. The transportation facility, as I mentioned, I've been sharing updates all summer long. We are preparing for our grand opening on August 24th. There's still going to be some things that are going to needing to get done, what they call punch list items. So we're working diligently on those. And as I've shared, it's sort of like any project you might have at your home or in a school that sort of lasts 5 to 10% of finished work just takes a really long time. And we've had a couple of little things happen as we've talked about. We have a plan to address the concrete. We have a really solid plan for that. So there are a few little things, and I kind of liken it to the amphitheater at Shepherd Park, where they opened. It's wonderful, but little things are going to still trickle and get done leading up to the start of the school year. None of it will prevent us from operationalizing it and being out of that facility in September, but there will be some little odds and ends things that will continue to play out over the last few weeks of summer. But we're really excited. It couldn't be going really any better. It's going to be a wonderful community place. It really is. The work that's been done on the accessibility trail down to the track, our public bathrooms, just the whole facility itself is really coming together, and we're really excited to share it with the community on August 24th. There's new flyers right there for all of you to see. Information has been shared out on social media and our Parent Square and all sorts of different places. We're collaborating closely with many nonprofit organizations to really make this more than just a grand opening. It's going to be a community showcase where people who come to visit will able to experience and kind of engage with the nonprofit organizations about ways that they benefit our community and maybe find a way that they might want to get involved or seek some support. So we've got a large list growing of those organizations that will be present there. So we're really excited about it. It's going to be a great kickoff. We hope we have a really good turnout. There is an RSVP sent out, so we're trying to get a handle on numbers, but it'll be a great day. So 11 to 2 o'clock on August 24th. Of course, all board members are welcome. We'll have a brief ribbon cutting ceremony. A few words will be shared, and then it'll be more of just a kind of like an open house. People can mill around and kind of tour the facility and grab a hot dog or something and then head out. So it'll be kind of throughout the day. We anticipate kind of numbers of people showing up. What's fascinating is people are going there now. Like I'm over there every day and people are riding their bikes up and, hey, this looks great, or when can we come in? So people are really interested in the community to really see it. As one of the things that I want to share, as I shared out today, just to comment briefly on, is the decision for our merged football program to transition from 11-player to 8-player football. So there are really two styles of football that are sanctioned through NISFA, the New York State High School Public Athletic Association, and 11-player, which you could refer to as regular football, or versus 8-player, which is a reduced number of players on the field. They're both sanctioned. They both are part of high school athletics. And over the last couple of weeks, as we've been examining our student registration, our student participation number across the 3 districts, they really were not coming in at a level that we were feeling very comfortable with continuing to pursue a regular season. You have to have at least 16 players registered and really active varsity players to participate in 11-player football. Last year, you'll recall that our numbers again were when we weren't able to really finish the season because of injuries and students that were not like freshmen, students that were not equipped to be really out on the field. So our numbers were tricky last year, and we have that same concern this year. We're not alone in this. I want to be clear about that. That's not, this is not a Lake George or a Warrensburg or a Bolton concern. It's actually much larger than that, really across the whole section. There was lots of emails going around from the Section 2 football committee of lots of school districts are faced with this same issue here, where students are choosing other sports or for whatever reason, looking to play something different. So because of that, the football committee put a deadline for school districts today to say, what is your plan? Are you either not going to offer football? Are you going to switch to 8-player? Or are you going to try to persevere or play 11-player? Part of that has to do with scheduling. And one of the anecdotals for us in a decision point was they have to redo the schedule, and other schools are shifting to 8-player football in our section. If we were to even try to persevere, and our numbers right now are around 17, I heard today, that's not enough for us. But even if we did, we would be playing much larger schools. We would be playing Class C school districts. We're a Class D school. It really wouldn't be safe for our students and give them a really good football experience. So the coaches, the athletic directors, the superintendents, the principals, we've been talking, we've been engaging for really the last 2 weeks as numbers have come in. And we're all on the same page about, number one, continuing to offer opportunities for our students. That's first and foremost, most important. We want to keep as many opportunities alive as possible. Now that gets harder as we get smaller, but by switching to 8-player football, it keeps opportunities of football alive for our students. There's been discussions with our students. I don't think it was going to be completely catching anybody off guard. You can see in the paper, there are a lot of local schools struggling with this, and more will come out over the course of this week. So we feel really good about our decision. It will allow us to play some more local teams that also have 8-player. We'll be switching to 8-player. Corinth and Hadley, a merged program as well. They switched to 8-player football last year. They're staying as 8-player this year. So we feel like it's an opportune time for us to offer a more sustainable program for our students, not only now, but for the future. And we wanted to communicate that today because we had a deadline. We were hoping to wait a little bit longer to see if registration numbers kind of increased, but looking at the kids who participated in summer camps, who participated in the past, we're just not going to get to the number that we need to really have a safe, successful season. So 8-player is where we're heading. We made that known to the section today, and we'll be having to redo our football schedule for the year. But the good news is that we're all on the same page. There'll be a parent-player meeting on Sunday as well to share more logistics and talk about it. But at the end of the day, it really, our focus is opportunities for kids, and that's what this will do. So I just wanted to pause there for a second, and if the board has any questions on football that I can answer.
Thank you. I don't have
Okay.
a question, but thank you for all the work and creativity to keep opportunity available, a safe opportunity available. Thank you.
Does it affect coaching staff numbers at all or anything like that, or everything else remains consistent?
Yeah, everything else will remain as is right now. If you recall, we right-sized our coaching staff really 2 years ago. So we actually have what we feel is a very sound number of coaches. In addition to that, We will still probably have the same number of students participate. It'll just be at the 8-player level. You have to have at least 12 play per regulation. So we still have the same number, plus we're hoping to still have 11 player at the modified level. So we anticipate our coaching numbers to stay the same.
Hey, John, any
Yes.
initial feedback from current football families or the community after the communication?
No, I reached out to our athletic director. We haven't had any feedback at this point, negative or positive about it. We put it out as early as we could. We explained it as best we could. We'll be present for our parent meeting on Sunday night, which is a typical time. I know Sunday night sounds strange, but football starts on Monday. They always have a parent meeting on Sundays because they hand out pads and all of those things and get ready for the season. So we'll know more over the next few days, and we'll see what kind of feedback we get. I just had a couple other quick things I know here. As both principals mentioned, the work around security that we've been doing in regards to our camera work, which is really tremendous. We have a brand new camera system, really replacing many outdated ones, and will allow for enhanced safety throughout our building. But another piece that we're started to look at is our visitor management system, how our visitors actually enter the building. This was actually cited in our workplace violence audit a couple of years ago. You may recall that there were several items starting with the secure vestibule greeter windows that were not deemed adequate. And there was a series of items, and we've been sort of plugging away at them over the last few years. And recently we had a meeting to start looking at how the processes around how visitors enter our building. So right now they go to the greeter window, they get a badge, they sign in, but for many of you who've been probably to other schools, there's really an enhanced system that even takes it up a notch with safety and ensuring that those people that are coming to the building are screened appropriately and then able to enter the building with sort of a different style badge. And they also go through a screening process. So there's a bunch of different programs we're looking at. Right now we're kind of in the investigation stage. So we actually on Friday will be Warren and Matt have been really great about working with different companies about visitor management platforms. So we're doing tutorials with 2 of them on Friday. We'll be sharing more information with the District Health Safety Committee about this, but it is one of our goals of how we look at it. Anything we do, as you know, will be well communicated. We want to be thoughtful about that. Any type of change for visitors and parents entering our building, we want to make sure that they're well prepared for expectations and what that looks like. So we don't have a timeline on that yet. We're hoping, some point this fall, if not a little sooner, that we will transition to that, but we want to certainly make sure the product is good, the training happens for our greeters, and we can communicate that well to parents. So I'll be updating the board more over the next few weeks. And then finally, I just have one last thing here, as was talked about too. There's tremendous amount of professional development going on. We had a great session on restorative practices with Mediation Matters, which is a local organization out of Saratoga, Albany, Schenectady. They have a lot of different offices. Amy Alfonso was here and really took a lot of us through 2 really major exercises. One, formal training on climate circles that you can do in your classroom or with staff. What does that look like? It was really, really powerful. And then the afternoon was really strategies on conflict resolution, which benefits really anybody. We're in the people business, we're in the human business, we're in the developing little humans. So any strategies that we can do to improve conflict resolution are always welcome. So our staff had a great time, a lot of good feedback. We anticipate continuing engagement with Amy and Mediation Matters and looking at how we can kind of get this out to the whole staff as well with more formal training. This one was more of teachers who signed up. So we had about 20 teachers across the 2 buildings participate, and it was a really great day. And then lastly, just some upcoming dates that I wanted to remind the board about. So August 19th, we have our professional learning plan committee that day. That committee helps facilitate professional learning goals. It's part of our plan that the board adopts each year. So more information to come on that. August 19th, we have bus driver training and transportation facility acclimation, I'm calling it, getting them acclimated to our new facility. August 27th, we have new teacher orientation. And then September 8th, opening day. Hard to believe. All board members are welcome to attend opening day. I'll be very shortly, sending out opening day letter, welcome back letter, and agenda. And I'll be sharing that with the board. But I know that our teachers value the boards. They usually, I'll work with Katie and Marianne on a reflective statement to start the school year. And yeah, we're off and running here pretty soon. So we'll enjoy these last few weeks, tying up loose ends, and then welcome our staff back on September 8th. So thank you.
Thank you, John. Anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you. Our next few reports are board committee reports, and the first one of those is Audit and Finance Committee report. Mario Fasulo chairs that committee and will give that report.
Thanks, Katie. We reviewed the contents of standing agenda items, which was the monthly treasury report and the claims auditors report. That will be items C and D on the school business consent agenda. We reviewed the reports for June, and June will be reviewed in August next week, as they'll be finalized in conjunction with the annual audit schedule, which was July 30th and 31st. With the first audit and finance meeting, we reviewed annual items, one of them being the purchasing policy and procedures and the committee charter. And at this time, we don't have any recommended changes for that. The band sale for the annual bus purchase and the serial bond sale for the transportation facility took place. So the bus band was awarded to NBT Bank. They had the lowest interest rate at 3.25, and that will be in the amount of $551,000. And the bus ban is renewed annually. The serial bond is the final debt for the transportation facility. So a few years ago, the voters approved the prop authorizing the construction for the new facility. The total project cost could not exceed $13.5 million. $4 that million came from capital reserve. The other $9.5 million was to be financed. The project, John, you heard from John, is nearing completion. The district completed the final review of the costs and available reserves. And right now, based on the analysis, the district determined that we only need to have a serial bond in the amount of $6.5 million. That's reducing the debt that by $3 million from the original amount that the voters approved for us. So that's a huge savings in the long run. We also reviewed Article 7 that at the time was in the final stages of negotiation. This is something that'll be a standing item on the agenda today. This agreement will include a refund to the petitioner, about half of what was being sought. And for us, we feel that's a fiscally responsible decision. But we'll talk more about that later in the school businesses agenda. And that was really it. Wasn't anything crazy.
Do you have any questions? Thank you, Mario. The next committee report is the Board Development Committee report, and I'll give that report. I chair that committee. The Board Development Committee met July 28th, and we had a very productive meeting. We reviewed the committee charter, made revisions in the meeting schedule section to clarify timeline and responsibilities for our annual summer meeting. And after tonight's board meeting, if there's no further changes suggested, the updated charter will be put on the district website. And that's something all district committees do at their first meeting of the year, is review the charter. And if it remains the same, it'll just stay the same on the website. If there's any changes, the board has an opportunity to review those in the minutes and make suggestions. The next item we discussed was the yearly task timeline calendar. We reviewed and updated that. We better organized the document and to provide clarity for committee tasks and corresponding timelines surrounding finalizing the yearly review of board level guiding documents. And those are the guiding documents that get sent out to the board to review, give input on. And in the spring, the Board Development Committee looks at those and makes recommended revisions and seeks feedback before we move on from that particular task for the year. And the ownership of all the board level guiding documents is being transferred to Sarah Barton, the district clerk, so they can be organized and housed in one central place. We worked on the board super self-evaluation and superintendent the superintendent evaluation timelines. And those are aligned with board meeting dates, contractual obligations, and those timelines are listed in the minutes. It's been that way over the course of many years. We've found them to be successful, lining up with like I said, with different board meetings. Same with the board self-evaluation timeline. This will be, I think, the third year that we start the evaluation in January and discuss it at the February meeting. That has worked out well in terms of what else is on our plate, and also to be able to have a mid-year point to look. And earlier when we did our goal development, and that's going to be a real priority for our self-evaluation. So having it in that mid-year point will be especially important, so we can have the opportunities that if we're not where we hope to be, we can redirect ourselves. The committee planned for the facilitation of the board workshop, which we had tonight. We had a report from the new board member mentor, Marianne McKenzie, and the student mentor, student board member mentor, Janine Bieber. They gave us an onboarding update and reported out on the timeline and topics of the mentor meetings, the frequency of the meetings. And some of those were in person, some by phone, that happened throughout the school year. They gained feedback, year-end feedback from the new member and student members using a list of questions that the board development committee had created as the feedback mechanism. And with that information, we'll be able to increase effectiveness for the onboarding process, which was part of our goal, number one. And perspectives and information provided from the year-end feedback will be gathered at the close of each onboarding year to further enhance. So that's going to be an annual event. We reviewed the board development budget. And in addition to the money that's budgeted for the annual New York State School Board Association conference, we have $2,800 available in the budget for further board development and training. And the board development committee is recommending scheduling a board retreat with a central theme being based on our board level guiding document regarding communication. I touched on this a little bit at our workshop earlier. And we make this recommendation given the value that we hold for our communication protocols and really otherwise limited opportunities that we have as a full board for deep discussion around this topic. The committee discussed options for facilitation of the retreat, and we are interested in the possibility of partnering with a local educator, facilitator, and previous Lake George board member, Tricia Biles, to lead the retreat. She has a depth of knowledge of the Lake George systems and extensive professional expertise. And the minutes say that I will reach out to her. I have reached out to her, and she was excited about the opportunity to do that. And she's going to submit a proposal for our review of that. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see, see how that lands, and I'll keep you posted. Does anybody have any questions about any board development? Okay. The next committee report is the policy committee report. Marianne McKenzie is the chair of that committee and will give us that report.
Okay, so this evening, there's not too many policies listed here tonight, but we do have two policies moving forward to second read. And they are 3290, operation of motor-driven vehicles on district property, and 3250, affiliated organizations. And I think Jeff reported out on both of those at the July board meeting. But just to recap, the 3250 affiliated organizations policy, that number 3250 was previously assigned to our parent-teacher student organization policy, which we retired last month. The numbers don't matter. We can use them how we like, but what happened with that is that a couple of years ago, Erie One BOCES recommended that we retire the PTSO policy as they felt that it was not necessary. The policy committee recognized that there was quite an overlap of content between what was in that policy and what was already on the district website for PTSO. And so we thought, maybe we don't need that content per se, but is there something that the district could benefit from? And the conversation occurred that we thought making it the topic more broad so that it wasn't just PTSO, but all affiliated organizations, and examining through policy language, the relationship between affiliated organizations and the district in terms of, let me just see here, connection to the district's mission, vision, and values. Let's see here. And outlining the features of just in general, the features of the district's relationship with any affiliated organization. So that policy is now moving to second read for adoption this evening. We have two policies listed for first read tonight, and they are 6410 acceptable use policy for personnel and 7315 acceptable use policy for students. Both of these policies came before the policy committee by way of an Erie One BOCES, our policy services, recommended updates. And both policies were revised to reflect changes to best practices and the use of technology in schools. And the revisions are based on the NYSED, or New York State Education Department, acceptable use policy. And they align with recommendations of recent comptroller's audits. And in addition to what you see in first read tonight, Erie One BOCES also had put forth a suggested policy, which was it was 6412 social media use. At the district level, the policy committee felt that the content of that suggested policy could be easily incorporated into policy 6410, which is the acceptable use policy for personnel. And that social media piece just addresses district use of social media platforms for professional reasons, and also personnel's use of social media for personal reasons. And that content was absorbed into 6410 rather than making it a standalone policy. Does that make sense? Okay. And that is it for tonight. We have many other policies in the queue under review, and our next policy meeting is September 14th, which is the week after our next board meeting. So those policies that we can manage, electronically, you may see a few next month, but there'll probably be a larger bulk the following month after we have our in-person conversation. Any questions? Okay, that's my report.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Yes. The next item on the agenda is the first of two public comment periods, and we don't have anyone in attendance, any guests in attendance for the meeting this evening. If you are attending virtually and you have a comment or question, please send an email to boe@lkgeorge.org, and board members and Superintendent John Luthringer will be able to view your email after the meeting and will respond as soon as possible. So moving to the school business section, we have the school business consent agenda, and I'll turn that over to you, John.
Thank you, Katie. As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby approves the school business consent agenda items A through M. Just to summarize, the item A is the minutes from the July meetings. Item B is the August recommendations from the Committee on Special Education. C and D are treasurers and claims auditors report. Item E is a motion to approve the Randy's Run Murphy's Mile fundraiser to be held on May 15th, 2027. Item F is to establish the following cafeteria rates. I just want to point out that we're still free lunch, but we have to set these per regulation. So we are still under the community eligibility provision, CEP, but these are required to be set annually. Item G is a motion to adopt the policy statements and attachments for the National School Lunch and Breakfast Program for the 26-27 school year. H is the school tax warrant for 26-27. Item I is a motion for the policies to move towards second read. Item J is a motion to approve the 26-27 student transportation cooperative agreement with schools in our region. Item K refers to the surplus list items, the surplus list that will go out. Item L is a motion to authorize a budget transfer of $189,799 by increasing the BOCES plant operations by transferring that denomination from health insurance. Item M is a motion to approve the contract for architectural services with Tetra Tech in regards to the 2026-2027 capital outlay projects.
We have a motion.
Second.
Do we have any questions? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any abstaining? Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the Article 7 proceeding.
As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District approves the settlement of the 2024 and 2025 real property tax law Article 7 proceedings entitled Mark Giannini versus the Town of Fort Anne as presented in the motion.
Do you have a motion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the district-wide safety plan.
As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby approves the 2026-2027 district-wide safety plan.
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. Next item is the action to attend the 2025 New York State School Board Association Convention and appointment of the delegate and alternate delegate. Oh, is that me? No.
As recommended by the superintendent, be resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby approve the Board of Education's attendance at the annual NYSBA convention.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? I should have said, ask for any discussion, any question? Motion carries. Next item, next area is faculty staff recognition. We have faculty staff resignations consent agenda.
As recommended by the superintendent, be resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby approves the faculty staff resignations consent agenda items A through C as follows. Item A is a motion to accept the resignation of Karen Breslin from the position of business education teacher for the purposes of retirement, effective January 29th, 2027. Item B is a motion to accept the resignation of Michaela White from the position of payroll clerk. Item C is a motion to accept the termination of Joseph Seabolt from the position of permanent substitute bus driver.
Any question, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. And we thank these folks for their time and commitment to Lake George. Next item is the faculty staff appointment consent agenda.
As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby approves the faculty staff consent appointments items A through K. Item A is the 26-27 substitute list of employees not hired through BOCES. Item B is the 26-27 substitute salary rates. Item C is a motion to amend the 26-27 coaches list and volunteer coaches list. Item D is a motion to approve the probationary appointment of Kathy Waite to the position of clerical aide. Item E is a motion to approve the probationary appointment of Keith Parent Jr. to the position of cleaner nights. Item F is a motion to appoint Julianne Cahill to the provisional position of payroll clerk. Item G is to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Lake George Central School District and the Lake George Staff Association. Item H is a motion to approve the appointment of Kathleen Sawyer to the position of food service helper and cleaner. Item I is a motion to approve the appointment of Christina Natoli as a long-term substitute in the teaching assistant area. Item J is a motion to approve the appointment of Mary Monahan as a long-term substitute special education teacher. And item K is a motion to approve the permanent appointment of Howard Grant to the position of building maintenance helper / groundskeeper.
Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Any questions? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. The next section is Board of Education comments and discussion. Does anybody have any items? Yeah.
I just wanted to recognize that we've lost another past superintendent. Mary Cahill passed away this past month, I believe. And she was superintendent here for a little while at least. So I just wanted to recognize that work.
Thank you, Rosemary. Thank you very much.
I just, it's too bad that we didn't have our student board members here yet, but I just wanted to mention that, they reported their feedback from their experience of, this past year. And, I wish they were here. I'll thank them personally, but I just want to let everybody know that their thoughtfulness and their, just very direct, not direct, but very goal-oriented reflections were so appreciated. And I was so impressed. The level of maturity in terms of the way they approached their feedback, both of them, was just really exceptional. So I wanted to let everybody know that. Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else have any other items? Okay, pardon? Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, and we're excited and thank you to everybody for your participation in the workshop that we had before our meeting, the goal development workshop. And it's exciting that one of our goals that we're going to be developing is ways to support our student board members and elevating their voice and their participation. So it's awesome. Thank you. Does anybody else have anything else? All right. We have the next item is the second public comment period, and we don't have anybody here. And again, if you're attending online, feel free to email us at boe@lkgeorge.org. Thank you. So the last item on the agenda is adjournment. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of Lake George Central School District hereby adjourns the meeting of August 11th, 2026.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody.